All I wanted was enough money to buy baby formula. Instead, my billionaire ex-husband sent me $1 million. My name is Harper Lane, and I'm a 31-year-old single mother living in a small Denver apartment with my daughter Aria, who just turned 2. Life has been a constant struggle since Grayson Cole, my ex, walked out on us 2 years ago to chase a bigger life in Los Angeles, one I wasn't part of anymore. I wasn't planning to contact him, not after all the cold silences and emptiness, but that night, as Aria whimpered beside me, I found myself staring at my almost emptied bank account, dreading the trip to the grocery store. I fumbled and typed a message I didn't even expect him to read. Need help buying formula. Minutes passed, like hours. Then my phone buzzed. A notification popped up from my bank. An incoming wire transfer? $1 million. I stared at the screen, disbelief melting into confusion and then a rising tide of questions. Why now? What did he want after all this time? Then the text came. It's not a mistake. I'm coming to see Aria. My heart stopped. The man who left without a word was suddenly back, more powerful and distant than ever, but now with a claim on the daughter he had abandoned. The memories rushed in, the late nights he was gone, the hollow moments when I held Aria alone, the whispered arguments and the empty promises. I remembered the cold goodbye that shattered what was left of our marriage. I remembered the nights I cried in our empty home, wondering if I'd ever be enough for him. And yet, here he was, sending help so extravagant it felt like a weapon, and declaring his return. I paced the cramped apartment, my mind a whirlwind. Could I trust him? Did he want to make amends, or was this some elaborate power move? What did this mean for Aria's future, for our fragile little family? More than anything, I feared the chaos that might follow. Grayson's world was a tempest of money, power, and secrets, a place I knew I couldn't easily escape. But one thing was clear. The quiet we'd lived in for 2 years was over. The man who once broke me was coming back, and I had to decide, would I face the storm or run again?
Grayson Cole arrived in Denver like a storm in a sleek black Bentley, sliding smoothly up the driveway of my modest apartment complex. The familiar yet distant hum of the engine was foreign and unsettling all at once. His presence had changed as much as the city skyline. Years of power, money, and distance carved into the shoulders he carried into our doorstep. I stared from behind the curtained window, my heart pounding in slow, heavy beats, as if warning me that this was no ordinary visit. 2 years without a word, no calls, no birthday wishes to Aria, nothing. And now, here he was, stepping out of the car with that familiar, confident stride. His dark, tailored suit, glinting watch, and cold gaze told stories that words couldn't begin to unpack. The man who once promised forever now looked like a stranger wearing my husband's face. I watched him approach the door, hesitation fleeting on his usually unreadable expression. As the doorbell rang, Aria's joyful laughter echoed from the living room. The moment Grayson stepped inside and saw her small face light up, something shifted, just for a second, softening his demeanor. "You're bigger than the last time I saw you," he said softly, crouching down to her height. I swallowed a mix of emotions, resentment, relief, confusion. Seeing him with Aria, how easily their connection resurfaced, stirred memories I'd suppressed. Yet, behind that brief warmth, I caught the flicker of guarded intent. Grayson wasn't here just to visit. His message had been clear. He was back in our lives, and he had plans. Our fragile reunion was shattered moments later by a loud knock on the front door. I peeked through the peephole to see flashing camera lights and a group of reporters. "Mr. Cole, can you confirm the rumors about your secret family here in Denver?" a voice shouted. The news had found us already. Grayson's face hardened. This visit was more than personal. It was about to turn public. And with the media's eyes glaring down on us, the storm threatening to engulf our small family was only just beginning.
The media frenzy was the least of our worries. Grayson and I barely had time to settle before an email arrived that would change everything. It was from Jordan Wells, his former business partner turned enemy, a man with a reputation sharp as a knife and a vendetta to match. The message was clear: pay up or face total ruin. $10 million, or everything comes out, it read, cold and calculated. Grayson's usually unshakable composure cracked for a moment. I saw the flash of fear in his eyes, the kind of fear reserved for inevitable loss. The loss not of money, but of control. And worst of all, the threat it posed to Aria. Jordan wasn't just after the business, he was after our family, our privacy, everything Grayson had tried desperately to protect since walking back into our lives. For the first time in years, Grayson didn't stand alone. We formed an uneasy alliance, two people tangled by a past painful enough to recognize that fighting together was our only hope. He shared something I never knew. The reason he'd left wasn't just ambition, but a haunting fear of becoming like his father, a man consumed by work, absent in heart. He feared losing his daughter before he even got the chance to know her. We pledged to protect Aria at any cost. As we hid her away in the safe house of an old friend, the stakes skyrocketed. Jordan's demands weren't just financial, they were personal threats, shadows looming over every quiet moment. And with every passing day, the tension between Grayson and me shifted, from painful history to reluctant trust. But one thing was clear: this fight was far from over.
The safe house where we hid Aria was miles away from the chaos of Denver, nestled in peaceful Aspen, surrounded by snow-capped mountains and dense forests. It belonged to Milo Reed, a former military pilot and longtime friend of Grayson's. Milo was a man of few words, but his presence felt like a shield around us, protecting our fragile little family from prying eyes and the dangers lurking in the shadows. Walking through the sturdy wooden door, I felt a fleeting sense of relief. This was a fortress, not just made of timber and stone, but built from loyalty and trust. For the first time since Grayson's sudden return, I allowed myself to breathe a little easier. Nights here were long and restless. Grayson and I spent hours combing through documents, financial records, hidden accounts, cryptic emails. We hunted for anything that could unravel Jordan Wells' grip on Coal Dynamics Holdings. Every detail mattered, every lead a thread we needed to pull. The work was exhausting, but more draining was the rebuilding of a partnership long broken. At first, our conversations were guarded, filled with awkward silences and half-formed apologies. But behind the tension, there was a shared understanding, a fierce determination to protect Aria no matter what. One quiet evening, as the fire crackled in the stone hearth, Grayson opened up in a way I hadn't seen before. I left because I was scared. Scared I'd become like my father, the man who valued work over everything, who lost his family in the process. I thought stepping away would protect Aria, but now I realize it only tore us apart. His voice trembled with vulnerability, a raw honesty that caught me by surprise. Tears welled in my eyes, and without thinking, I reached out to squeeze his hand. Fear is powerful, but courage is facing it, together. That night, something shifted between us, not just the rekindling of old feelings, but the birth of a new resolve. We were no longer exes fractured by pain. We were co-parents fighting side by side. Days blurred into nights as we worked tirelessly, piecing together Jordan's illegal offshore operations and embezzlement schemes. Every new revelation was a weapon in our hands, a step closer to freeing ourselves from his clutches. Amid the chaos, a fragile hope blossomed, a hope that beyond the shadows of our past, a future still waited to be written, hand in hand.
The day we confronted Jordan Wells was a hurricane wrapped in a glass house, tense, volatile, and ready to shatter at the slightest touch. We chose an abandoned hangar on the outskirts of Aspen, a place where echoes bounced and no one could overhear our reckoning. I stood beside Grayson, my heart beating faster than I thought possible, adrenaline slicing through the cold mountain air. Jordan arrived late, a smirk playing on his lips like he already thought he held all the cards. Dressed in an expensive, ill-fitted suit, he radiated arrogance, confident his threats and manipulations would hold us hostage forever. "You think sending $1 million buys me?" Jordan sneered. "I own this game." Grayson's eyes burned with something fiercer than anger, something wild and protective. "You think money scares me, Jordan? The only thing I care about losing is my daughter." His voice cracked with the weight of every broken promise, every lost moment. Jordan's smile faltered for a heartbeat, then he laughed, a hollow sound that filled the cavernous space and echoed like a warning. I fumbled for my phone, secretly recording. Every word, every expression, evidence to tip the scales in our favor. The verbal duel escalated, sharp as knives thrown in a brutal dance. Jordan tried to twist truths, to gaslight us into submission. But we stood firm, bound by years of pain and a shared resolve. Suddenly, headlights blazed outside. Grayson's security team cut the tension with their quiet precision, surrounding Jordan before he could react. The unexpected backup sealed the moment. Jordan's smirk dropped as he was cuffed, his empire crumbling. But no victory tastes sweet in silence. When the next morning, the confrontation's footage leaked to the press, the storm only grew louder. Our story was out, and the fight had only just begun. In the days that followed, the media storm unfolded like a tornado. Headlines, social media buzz, expressions of support and outrage. Jordan Wells was arrested, his reputation shredded, his business on the brink of collapse. But even among the chaos, I felt a strange sense of peace settling inside me. Grayson and I, once strangers divided by pain, now faced the aftermath as allies, partners in fighting for our daughter's future. During a quiet evening in Aspen, I watched him look at Aria and realize that the fear he'd carried all those years, fear of becoming his father, had almost destroyed everything. "You were right," I said softly. "Love isn't just about promises. It's about what we do when everything falls apart." He nodded, eyes moist with unspoken regret. "Maybe now I finally understand what truly matters." In that moment, I knew we'd built more than just a barricade against the storm. We'd begun to rebuild trust, step by fragile step. No, we weren't perfect, but now we were real. And for Aria's sake, that was enough. Weeks have passed since the storm of media, threats, and confrontations settled into an uneasy calm. Jordan Wells is behind bars, facing charges that will keep him away for a long time. Coal Dynamics Holdings is slowly rebuilding under new leadership, and Grayson has publicly committed to scaling back his business life, focusing instead on what truly matters. I watched Grayson yesterday as he held Aria in his arms after her preschool recital, a look of pure, unfiltered joy on his face. It was the first time I'd seen him so present, so connected. Our path hasn't been easy. We still carry the scars of old wounds, the betrayals, the fears, the years apart. But now we carry them together. Grayson opened up about his fear of turning into his workaholic father, how that fear drove him away. And I finally understood the man behind the wealth and power, a man searching for redemption. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I do know this. Love doesn't always make grand gestures. Sometimes it returns softly, like a knock on the door, bearing baby formula in one hand and 5 million reasons in the other. And sometimes, if you're brave enough to answer, it brings hope. If you believe second chances are real and worth fighting for, hit subscribe and share your stories below. More real-life tales coming every week.